There's another thing that has gotten us hot under the collar. It's the March and March movement. The movement says it's pushing for stronger border control and action from the state. But what its rise has also drawn is serious criticism from analysts and rights groups who warn that the rhetoric around these protests can inflame tension and place vulnerable communities at risk. President Cyril Ramaphosa forcefully echoed the sentiment that South Africa is not xenophobic. In South Africa, debates about immigration cannot be separated from the country's history of xenophobic violence, which means public leaders and protest movements carry a responsibility to speak carefully and also to act within the law. Welcome to another installment of Frankly Speaking. Being frank with MacG. Guys, it's been a hell of a week, especially at the Madlanga Commission. Earlier on, we heard about the fact that the Madlanga Commission might be out of funds. We saw a drunk policeman that confessed live on television, but I think the biggest sort of story or the biggest thing that came out of this is that 541 kilograms of cocaine. And the man at the center of it all was Colonel Gavin Jacobs. Colonel, not Colonel Sanders. Skadana KFC Streetwise too. No. Colonel Gavin Jacobs. So who is Colonel Gavin Jacobs? He's the commander of the Durban Serious Organized Crime Investigation Unit within the Hawks. He played a role in investigations connected to the Port Shepstone cocaine seizure and subsequent investigations around drug syndicates and related criminal activity. Important guy, big guy, someone you call big boss, right? So what was his role in this drug bust? Jacobs' unit was involved in investigations connected to major drug trafficking cases, including the seizure and the handling of that consignment, which later disappeared. Gone. Nowhere to be found. Spoku, guys. Kaspa. He also testified about intelligence and investigations linked to drug-related killings as well as informants. Wabona is a big guy. Very big guy, this guy. But the central issue is not the original seizure itself, but how the drugs later vanished from police custody. What the commission is doing is examining whether there was negligence, corruption, collusion, or a straight cover-up. Me, Teacher Mac, 1, 2, 3, 4. I tick all the boxes, all of them. Because if you don't know what hot under the collar looks like, I'll tell you why and how. When the commissioners questioned Colonel Jacobs, right, they challenged many aspects of some of his evidence, right? One, there appeared to be discrepancies between his oral testimony and his previous written statements. So the guy's dodgy. He's not answering questions properly. Other witnesses have even come forward and mentioned him by name, and this is in relation to information about the theft of the cocaine, right? And we have been watching the Madlanga Commission, but the public has shown an incredibly great interest in this particular individual because a large portion of the reaction is not because he has been found guilty of anything, but because during questioning, you see it. He appears nervous and defensive during questioning. He struggles at times to reconcile previous statements with what he was telling the commission and the commissioners. And time after time, the commissioners had to repeatedly interrupt him for clarification because he seems to be all over the place.
Operation to be minimal. Based on what you say, it was actually a whole day.
Yes,
it was a whole day.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah, no, I just want to clear that because you sounded as if you were making it very minimal.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, and I still proceeded to be on vacation leave thereafter.
I get that. Okay. I'm just talking about this one day.
Are you correct, sir?
A lot of the people that were watching his testimony came out and says that a lot of the other witnesses that came forward were confident. They were consistent. They know what they were talking about. This is a senior member of the police, and he doesn't even remember the police officers that he spoke to on the day. This guy was actually off duty and he came forward and said, what 541? I mean. Because the frustration that you're getting from a lot of the commissioners stems from the fact that he's got inconsistencies and a belief that a lot of the answers that he's giving were evasive. Justice Madlanga had to constantly challenge him over the differences between his written statement, his recollection of some of the events that happened on that day, evidence already presented by other witnesses, which he should have been privy to because he was being prepared to also come and give evidence.
Because you were on leave, the decision you make to book yourself for the purposes of doing this, why did you not assign it to somebody in your team who was equally capable of assisting? Why did it have to be you?
Commissioner, it's not every day that you get an opportunity to participate in an operation where you're stopping or you're inspecting a container that's suspected to contain drugs. It's something that, for me, it was something that was worth going to work for, to obviously check this information out.
My difficulty with that is that if you look at your entry, at this point, all you knew that it was 27 kilograms,
Yes.
just one bag. So it was not something that was so significant that you needed to break away from your leave and be the one who attends. Even a junior officer or somebody in your team who is capable of attending a bust of 27 kilograms could have done that. We subsequently learned that it was more, but
Yes.
at the time when you took the decision, you were told that it's 27 kilograms.
Okay.
So I don't understand why it was so important for you to say, I'm on leave, but I will participate.
Okay.
Now, if you've been watching the commission and following it and seeing how the commissioners actually handle their jobs, you'll see they get incredibly pissed off when people change their versions of what they came with in the first place, right? Claim to not remember important events around the case, or provide explanations that appear inconsistent with documentary evidence. This is evidence that is already documented. It is already there. Your lawyer should have advised you. People that are involved in this should have already spoken to you about things that have already appeared before the commission. So you should have been prepared. So this is why a lot of people think he looks guilty, right? And I know it's not fair when we put people in front of the court of public opinion, but we interpret nervousness as guilt. We interpret avoiding eye contact as guilt. We interpret long pauses, because when a person pauses long, a guy is searching for information, is there in the ether, looking for things that are contradictory answers and are defensive responses. And this is what Colonel Jacobs has come out of and looking as a guilty person. We can't then look at these behaviors and say that this is proof of wrongdoing. A lot of the time, witnesses in high-profile commissions frequently appear stressed because they're being questioned publicly, they are under oath, and it's often about events that occurred years earlier. So at this stage, the commission has not concluded that Colonel Jacobs is guilty of any crime. But here are some of the most explosive revelations which include him. Right? A Hawks officer, Warrant Officer Carl Saunders, testified that Colonel Jacobs allegedly told him that the people responsible for stealing the cocaine were known, and that they allegedly had links to Hawks management. Now, that claim has attracted major attention because it suggests that insiders may have known much more about the theft than what has been previously disclosed. So we, the public, ask, how does 541 kilograms of cocaine disappear? I don't think there's anyone with a nose that big to make it disappear. Someone in the South African Police Services knows exactly where those drugs went. They left from a police custody in Port Shepstone to somewhere else. And surely, has a taxi that came and stood there, pop, 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 and the cocaine walked in. Someone within the police service is the one that made sure that that cocaine disappeared. Someone knows. The commission is also catching witnesses in contradictions. A lot of people are saying this, then saying that, saying this, then saying that. Guilty is written all over them, right? And we've come to a point where we're now also seeing the strength of these commissioners, where Justice Madlanga is also no longer accepting any weak answers. What has come out of this and what is clear from the Madlanga Commission is that dirty cops and drug syndicates are working together. The reason why this testimony has also captured public attention is that it feeds into a broader concern emerging from the Commission. And these are allegations that organized crime networks may have penetrated parts of law enforcement and that some major criminal investigations may have been compromised from within. And this missing cocaine is viewed as one of the clearest examples of that concern. For me, one of the most painful things about the past week is what has happened to Carl Sanders. Guys, Carl Sanders is a veteran KwaZulu-Natal narcotics officer. He's got 40 years of service in the South African police services. And he was one of the people that testified about the theft of that cocaine.
Says the test was conducted by Captain Nell. All polygraph tests are subjected to 2 quality reviews. The first is the technical review during the polygraph process after the polygraph charts are generated. During this process, the result was a DI, deception indicated. The polygraph result was communicated to the examinee during the post-test interview. The results on the summary were obtained after the tests were done. This is in relation to the first report. Later, during the administrative review process, the reviewer went through all documents and found that the polygraph examiner had made serious errors during the polygraph examination process. Reviewer's report is attached, which is the unsigned one. We will see if it is the signed one now. A non-conformance was opened and investigated against the polygraph examiner. The test was considered invalid so that the examinee was not prejudiced by the errors of the polygraph examiner. The polygraph examiner in question was stopped from conducting any further polygraph examinations thereafter.
So, effectively, the warrant officer was exonerated.
He was, Chair.
All right. That probably means all of those tests were.
This relates only to him,
Yes,
we will before all the other witnesses come, we will have to do the same exercise, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We are done with the witness, Chair.
Warrant officer, you are excused.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very, very much for your testimony. And at least I'm happy that we are at the point where we are adjourning. I see that you are emotional, so you'll find time to compose yourself now.
Can you imagine giving so many years of your life to the service, spending days and nights risking your life to keep South Africa safe, and your children look at you and they see you as someone that was part of 541 kilograms of cocaine disappearing? Everything that you have done, the service that you have given to this country, taken away because of rogue elements within the very organization that you work for. Because even though he was on leave when all of this happened, he says that senior management targeted him, put him through repeated polygraph tests, and even accused him of stealing his office coffee machine. Come on. And we all saw it. In an emotional moment, the commission heard that his polygraph tests were invalid because of the examiner's errors. He was cleared of any wrongdoing. And he broke down in tears in front of us and said that his work on major drug busts may have made him enemies inside the system, costing him promotions and even damaging his career. But you've got to love South Africa, right? Because his story about the coffee machine touched a nerve across the country and inspired a back-a-buddy campaign that raised thousands of rands. But to show the integrity of this man and the kind of police officers that we used to have, he won many people over and he took only a replacement machine. He retired early and he donated the rest of that to the South African Narcotics K9 unit. Guys, you don't get any better than that. Early on, I spoke about being hot under the collar. Here's another thing that has gotten us hot under the collar. It's the March and March movement. And this movement has become a visible force in South Africa's immigration debate, organizing protests in Gauteng, Johannesburg, and Durban, while also calling for stricter enforcement against undocumented migrants. The movement says it's pushing for stronger border control and action from the state. But what its rise has also drawn is serious criticism from analysts and rights groups who warn that the rhetoric around these protests can inflame tension and place vulnerable communities at risk.
They have it enough with illegal foreign nationals and they want them removed from this country. That's basically what the South Africans are saying. Two, we want to make it very clear that our call is an anti-xenophobic call. It's a call that takes the national security of the country at hand, and we want to protect the South Africa as South Africans. And we also want to do away or take away the notion that South Africans, and this is a tribal or ethnic mobilization. So we want to actually point out...
Supporters of the movement argue that weak border management, poor service delivery, and rising economic pressure is fueling the public frustration. But this remains a highly sensitive issue. In South Africa, debates about immigration cannot be separated from the country's history of xenophobic violence, which means public leaders and protest movements carry a responsibility to speak carefully and also to act within the law. With threats of further national action by the end of June, the story is no longer just about the immigration policy, but about whether the country can respond to public anger without deepening fear, division, and instability. So let's look at the president's response, right?
So as also to deal with troubling issues such as what we have experienced in South Africa, which I have spoken about, that South Africans inherently are not against people from other nations. We are one people. We have always been one people. And of course, we've got to also pay heed to the security of those from other countries who are in South Africa, but also pay heed to the concerns that are being raised by South Africans. President Chapo and myself discussed this matter, and we agreed that we should work together. It's not only one country that is affected, and all countries that have foreign nationals in South Africa are also affected as South Africa is affected, so we must all work together, join hands to find solutions to this problem.
He addressed Parliament during the recent presidency budget vote. President Cyril Ramaphosa forcefully echoed the sentiment that South Africa is not xenophobic. As a country, we are not xenophobic. And he also directly acknowledged the validity of citizens' concerns. He hears us, right? But here's the clarion call that's coming out. He says, let's secure the borders first. The president explicitly stated that the most critical intervention to tackle the issue is securing the country's borders. He highlighted the deployment of 600 Border Management Authority guards, utilizing advanced drone technologies and body cameras to fortify transit points. He came out and he strongly rejected vigilantism, while also pledging a tighter stance on law enforcement and fast-tracking deportations under newly revised legal frameworks. Ramaphosa strongly warned against any form of xenophobic vigilantism. Came out and stated that citizens must leave law enforcement to the state, urging for social cohesion while the government systematically repairs its border security infrastructure. Oh, President, thank you so much. We appreciate your intervention. But is it a little too late? Because we heard of a case recently where a boy was beaten almost to a pulp. And he was a local. He was a South African. He was too dark and probably didn't speak. He doesn't know what Dololwana is. It's called Dololwana, this thing. They said, if you don't know what Dololwana is, Mabaham. And that is very dangerous, guys. We live in a country that has a fractured past, and black on black violence, violence against other Africans cannot be tolerated. This is not how you build a country. This is not how you build a continent. But more than anything else, we need to tighten our borders. It is not about kicking people out of the country. It is about making sure that our migration laws are adhered to, number one. And number two, it is about tightening the borders. In Lesotho, just on the border of Lesotho, on this side, you're in South Africa, Harpa. Almost, you remember skipping. Kapakin Dadingel. Kind of maybe when you.
No, it's Scotch.
Scotch, yes. Remember when you played Scotch? Our South Africa. You're in Lesotho. Those are not borders, guys. Those are not borders. So what government needs to do, especially with the Border Management Agency, is to make sure that our borders are secured. We deploy more people on our borders. We make sure that people enter the country legally, even if by a hump. You're welcome back, as long as you've got your visa and you've got the correct papers. That's where this debate should be going. Not violence, not kicking people, and not killing them. So let's wait and see what will happen afterwards. But it's a very, very, very dangerous waters that we're trading on. Now let's go to, I think you all remember the FIFA World Cup. When it happened in South Africa, it was, Philip, it is here. Hi, this US one, I'm not feeling anything. I don't know whether it's because of Trump, whether it's because of US policies. I don't know whether it's the Strait of Hormuz. But whatever it is, I'm not feeling Philip. I don't care about the World Cup. I don't even know who I'm supporting. Right now, I'm just supporting anything that is anti-American. So let's look at what has happened so far leading up to the World Cup. Right? The first thing that has become an issue is the visa debacle. Bafana's trip to the World Cup got off to a messy start. And this is after visa delays left more than 20 players and staff stuck in Johannesburg and pushed the team's departure back by a day. The squad eventually flew out on Monday. But assistant coach Hemen Kelela Bafetu was among those left behind while his paperwork was being sorted. SAFA President Danny Jordan said the visa issue came with little explanation. But after help from Derko and the US Embassy, the situation was resolved. I don't think I can trust the US Embassy. You know, the US doesn't like us. They call us genocidal people, so I don't really feel like, they want to help, right? But anyway, let's go to Mkelele. Mkelele and the head of security, Mdu Mbata, have now been cleared to travel so the team can finally get down to the real business of football. Right? There's no vuvuzela in the US. Guys, there'll be no vuvuzelas. And this is at the 2026 World Cup. FIFA has come out and said that the stadium rules ban noisemakers like air horns and mechanical horns. But guys, when they were here, it was nice. It was, kumbaya. Everybody can do what they like. Now we're going to the US. How are we going to support our guys? I mean, I can't think of any Gwijo song or any support song, from South Africa that doesn't involve vuvuzela. It is part of our culture. It is part of our soccer culture. We are not going, make noise in a stadium. Guys, come on. So it's the end of a very loud era, but not the end of South African flavor in the stands. No vuvuzelas, no problem. Little Bina, guys. South Africans will bring the noise, just with songs, chants, and plenty of spirit. Thanks. I'm out.